Hello out there, BoomerTime family. Nancy Cogar, and it's time for BoomerTime. You know, we talk about all issues related to aging. Doesn't matter what it is, legal or otherwise. If it's helpful, I want to talk about it here. So we recently participated in an hour-long special on aging well, thanks to Local 3, Julie Edwards, 3+U, and my fellow guests, which included Food City and my friends at Pointe Senior Living. It was, I thought remarkable that a local television station would take an hour out to talk about aging issues. And it just shows how important the community is to them. I believe that. So we covered all kinds of issues, everything from, Food City, right? So nutrition, eating well, ideas of how to stretch your dollar. Everything is more expensive these days, but things you could pick up, especially if you're just, cooking for yourself, that might keep more vitamins down there, right? So no, that was very helpful. And I hope to have, Food City here so we can share some of those things. But I wanted to show some of the highlights from the show because there was just so much good information. Everything from what I usually share to real good insight from Pointe Senior Living as to choosing a community to become your home. And a lot of people don't realize this, but it's not unusual to see people from other parts of your life or, the past, friends you haven't seen in a while when you're visiting there. And that's nice because it gives you connection, right? And familiarity. It's not as scary as you might think. And community living also is great as far as having that additional support that we talk about so often. Medicine management to caregiving support to laundry to, all aspects of your life. So I appreciated that they were able to share with that. And I did think that the information was so helpful that I wanted to share it with you. So take a look and I'll be right back.
Nancy Cogar, a very familiar face here on 3+U. She's an elder law attorney here in town. In the middle is Gina Wilson. She is a registered nurse and here with Pointe Senior Living, as well as Abby Medley, also representing the folks at Pointe. Their focus really to talk everything from what it's like just to get older in general, to memory care concerns, and then the idea of transitioning into a community if that's what people should decide to do. So welcome all three.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Since we talked about the perhaps moving into a community, Nancy was kind enough to provide some numbers. So let's kind of start with some stats, the ones I mentioned at the top of the show about the 67,000 seniors here in Hamilton County. That was courtesy of that information you shared from the Census Bureau in 2024. But it is still true as we look that most seniors want to live and age in place.
I think 95% of seniors want to stay home, but the gap is not doing things that help them to stay home and then looking at alternatives because, the stereotypical kind of assisted living really, as far as Pointe is concerned, doesn't exist,
Right. It's more specialized, you mean.
It can be, yes, and it can be so much better for their health, well-being, and so forth to be around other people.
Right. So, you look at these numbers. This will not apply to everybody watching today, but it's worth showing that of those 67,000 seniors here in Hamilton County, 12% of them live at the poverty rate.
Yeah.
And that exceeds the state average, right? So we're in a worse position financially than the rest of the state. So talking about that preparation from the Pointe perspective, Abby, I'm sure you see it often where people find themselves in a bit of a crisis and there's just not the ability to get there.
Yes, and unfortunately it does happen quite often. And we try to be a resource. So even if somebody's not able to move with us at Morning Pointe, we want to help them get to where they need to be. So we will help call other places for them, help call other communities, try to be a resource to help through that all.
So I want to kind of talk some legal things for a second with Nancy, and I promise we're going to get everybody in the conversation, but you talk about the planning and people wanting to live at home as long as they can. Some of that does come down to what happens to you as you age. So how many people really come into their senior years, Nancy, with a will, with a thought out identification of their powers of attorney, et cetera?
Well, I think that, 60%, to answer your question, have nothing in place. So that's 6 out of 10. That bothers me, and I think about that a lot. And there's a misunderstanding, I think, too, that people think they've got a house and they've got, a bank account or maybe a retirement account. Well, I don't really have an estate, so I don't need these documents and I don't need estate planning. But it's so much more than that. And I'm sure Morning Pointe can talk to this as well, because if you don't have things in place where people are authorized to take care of you, make decisions for you when you're not able to, that gets real complicated. And, you also want to have the opportunity to choose the ones that you want to make the decisions for you.
Okay, let's talk about that a second, because is there a difference in a power of attorney, an executor of your will, and then a third part, somebody who can make medical decisions for you? Is that right?
Well, yeah, and not to get too complicated, but of course there's so many privacy laws now, HIPAA, there's financial privacy laws, all the fraud that's come into place. Unless you have these documents, you are going to create some problems for yourself and for your family.
Okay,
bottom line.
Stick with a few legal terms for me.
Sure.
The executor of the will will do just what the name implies.
Right. So your will takes effect when you die. It does not take effect before then. It serves as instructions for what you want to happen to your things when you don't need them anymore.
So they will execute your wishes.
Sure, but it's got to be exact according to Tennessee law. I spend a lot of time trying to cure wills that aren't really wills, so that it's just so important not to cut corners.
Power of attorney, is that financial only?
There's a financial power of attorney, and it really extends more to personal affairs. So that can be everything from hiring a caregiver to helping to sign a contract at a residence where you move in. It's a wide range of things. Matter of fact, I just added to my personal affairs power of attorney the ability to stop scammers from calling your cell phone. Call law enforcement. It is just pervasive. But, to your question, healthcare power of attorney, that is just as important.
Okay.
And you've got some constitutional rights, even towards the end of your life, that you have to articulate. I mean, if you do not want certain care, you need to put that in writing in a document that can be enforced.
I'm thinking about what happens to you kind of mentally as you get older, not even from a memory loss perspective, but just what your mind can take, what agitates you maybe. I'm thinking about the $7,000 in annual out-of-pocket expenses. That's a lot of money, Nancy, but it's a lot to try to be budgeting for if you're that kind of a person.
Absolutely. Even on your best day, it's hard budgeting.
Yeah.
It really requires some comprehensive, and I always go back to this, but some comprehensive planning. Everyone needs to be on the same page about what you have and how you can use it. Even if you've got a house, maybe at some point, maybe at some point you move to sell it, and that money puts in an interest-bearing account, and you can use that to pay for your care. There are just so many different things that can be done. It's just when people sit down with me and they realize, there's all these options, I think that really is enlightening for a lot of people, whether it's caregiving, whether it's dietitians, whether it's medicine management, and using your assets well. And that's your property.
Nancy, one of the statistics that you shared was on housing. So we began the conversation this morning talking about the fact that most seniors say they want to age in place.
Sure.
Most of them, certainly this is true for those watching our show, own their own home. right? The large majority of Americans who are 65 and older, they own it. So is it a good idea to see that as being maybe an equity that you can tap into, an asset to tap into?
Well, a couple things. So most seniors that I've come across do own their own home, free and clear. And they've been there, 50 years? So the house is not ready to be aging ready. So if you're going to start considering those things, you need to look at the safety concerns in the house, improvements, which can be deductible later on, just making the house more accessible for you so you don't have a fall or something like that.
Right.
The second piece of that, and I mentioned that earlier, is there are things you can do not only to contract caregiving services, even with a family member as part of estate planning, but use the value in your house smart. You know, there are a lot of predators out there, so I say that very cautiously, but a lot of people, that's the biggest asset they have. So they should really look at what they can use to maintain their quality of life and their health and safety going forward.
Nancy mentioned the word predators. Is it a good idea to maybe take some real precautions from a legal perspective to make sure that scammers can't get through to your parents? Or, I mean, how do you protect that?
Well,
from that?
Again, I think estate planning has become a lot more holistic. It's not just about powers of attorney, wills, trusts, those things. Those are a critical piece. But I talk with people about home improvement, safety concerns, caregiving options, medicine management, inventory, preparing for all those things that kind of dovetail with institutionalized care or, assisted living is a better way to say that. But this, and not to shamelessly plug my book, but that's what I've tried to do both with the podcast and with the book. And I've been invited by Morning Pointe to come out in August to several communities. I'm really looking forward to that. Not only to meet the residents, but to talk with adult caregiving children about the options that are available. I'm one of those. I know you're one of those.
Yeah.
We need to really not only give ourselves a break and maintain our own health, but to look at this differently.
They began to talk, the three of them. Y'all were saying that Tennessee recently passed a law actually trying to give some aid to caregivers. Is that right?
Yeah, it's encouraging. They're starting to recognize that this is important and they put money towards it. Now, it's called caregiving law, and you need to apply for care assistance. You can use it from home improvements. You can use it to pay for private care. You can use it for respite. I mean, it's not a lot of money, but it's a start, and it's something that's there. So I think the applications are through the Area Agency on Aging in each district.
Okay.
But I was encouraged to see that, they're taking time out of their legislative session to talk about this issue, and it moved through. So.
Okay, so you provided this kind of composite of what the typical American senior looks like. I will tell you that the first thing that strikes me is we're talking about someone who is 72. I consider that young.
Me too.
Right? We are living older and longer years. So to me, 72 is very young, and yet this is the kind of typical scenario, I guess, that we see in this case. The Social Security part of it, our dependency on Social Security, I guess, tends to be common for a lot of people in this country. That's their primary income source.
Yeah.
And that only goes so far, right?
I mean, if you're making $2,000 a month, which I think is approximately the poverty line, that's not that unusual. And it's not a lot of money, especially if you need to, have so much of that go towards prescription costs and supplement insurance and food and all those things.
I asked them something during the commercial break. Really, the question was to Nancy about blended families, and all three of them went, oh, it can be really complicated when you're dealing with second marriages.
Yeah, just from the standpoint of making assumptions about who's going to get what and what happens to things if one person dies before the other, and it's You need professional help.
That's something I had wanted to ask, and I don't even know if I have enough time now. I find in my own walk with my mom that the things that are important to me aren't as important to her anymore. Do your priorities shift as you get older?
I think so. Life is so precious. You know, we can get uptight about so many things in our life, but life goes by fast. And I think sometimes when you're in that sunset year, or years rather, you know that. You see your kid looking haggard and you say, go take care of yourself. That's still your children.
Right.
But wanting to have that peace, you know, just that is so important. Welcome back. See, I told you that was such a great conversation, such good information. And I love that Local 3 took the time to provide the airtime for that. I'm hoping we have more conversations like that in the future. You know, if you had some ideas, I was going to say, about things that you're concerned about or things that worry you or even questions that you thought about and as a result of watching that, send them on to me. You can send on those questions and comments. Maybe they'll make a part of the show coming up. But I do want to hear what you think and what you're thinking about. So that's important. Well, once again, thank you to Julie and the Local 3 team and Morning Pointe and Food City. I'm looking forward to having Food City here soon. So we will talk more about nutrition then. And, of course, I wanted to let you know that the book is still available. You may have seen me in different places around the community. I've been busy. I've been invited to several places, including Morning Pointe Senior Living, to share about the book, share about what it aims to do, to give you more information about the importance of planning and why you need to be thinking about these things and what might happen if you plan the right way versus the wrong way. So I would encourage you to pick up a copy of my book. It is available on Amazon, so you can do that right there. And I would love to hear what you think about the book. So send those comments on too. All right. Well, I look forward to seeing you all out at Morning Pointe Senior Living on August 27th. Hey, that's a community event too. So if you're around or you want to come in, come on by East Hamilton on the 27th, I said. Yeah, 6 to 8. So hope to see you there. But I know it's going to be another great conversation about these issues. More and more people are becoming aware. And that's so important, both to the individuals, the aging individuals, and their family members. That's real good stuff. So I'll see you next time.